everyone. Welcome. We're so excited for you guys to join us today for our session on data factory and data pipelines.
Awesome. And my name is Shireen. I am a product manager in the data factory space for Microsoft Fabric. And then Noelle.
And I'm Noelle, and I'm also a product manager in the data pipeline space for Data Factory, along with Shireen. So we're excited here to walk you through this new Learn Live module, or I guess learning path with many modules to get you more familiar with data pipelines and Data Factory. And we're really glad for you to join us, and we're excited to talk about all things data pipelines.
Yes, we're super excited, and we're joined by our great moderator, Amy. And feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Amy will be answering some, and then of course we'll be handing some questions off to the both of us to answer live. So feel free to engage with us. We want you to engage with us as well as we kind of go through all the different capabilities of Data Factory and Microsoft Fabric. So on to the next slide. So this is the link to kind of just follow along with what we're going to be talking about during the session. So I have a cool deck where I'll be going over some concepts based on Data Factory and Fabric. And then Noelle will also be showing you live how this actually looks in Fabric as well. And then we have these cool modules for you to follow along as well. So feel free to, look at the session, also try it out on the side as well. And then as we're going through the presentation, we'll be going back and forth between key concepts and also playing around with it actually in Fabric. So feel free to scan the QR code or just go direct to the link.
Yep. And a lot of what you'll see in the slides are things that you'll continue to learn throughout the learning path. We'll just be able to offer a little bit more detail if you have any questions on that. And I see in the chat, people already asking questions. Mark, unfortunately, couldn't make it today, but never fear. He is in all of our videos. If you are familiar with any of our Data Factory YouTube videos, he will still be making an appearance in all of those and in the future. And the dog might make a live appearance. We will see. You might hear her barking in the background.
Yeah, and I'm taking over for Mark, so hopefully I can do justice for him. Cool. And then one more thing, of course, I already mentioned this before, but everything is interactive. So yeah, feel free to pop a hi in the chat, ask any questions. We're more than happy to help answer any questions. And of course, if we don't know the answer, we'll of course get back to you. But yeah. So basically there have been quite a few sessions that have been going on in the past month and also in the next month as well. So we're right like smack dab in the middle of all the sessions currently. So we have Data Factory, pipeline specifically, and then it looks like next week we have another session over data flows. The data flow team is actually on the same team as us, but if you're interested in learning about data flows and then eventually data warehouses, analytics, feel free to tune in for the sessions that are coming up. But this week, especially today, we're going to be talking about Data Factory pipelines. So really quickly, another great link for you to also just use as a resource is the Fabric Cloud Skills Challenge. So in this case, you have the ability to learn more about the product. This is all things Fabric, not just data pipelines, Data Factory, but you can learn different things. It could be data warehouses. You can learn more about notebooks, anything that is encapsulated as part of Fabric. And along with that, it's kind of fun for you guys as well. You guys can compete with each other, see who, gets the most modules or learning paths done. So it's kind of a fun, different thing which you guys can do. And along with that, you're just learning more about Fabric and developing those skills. So feel free to also go to that aka.ms link, just as a great other resource for you to just learn more about Fabric.
Yeah, and it's always fun learning with other people, and Fabric is so cool. It'll be awesome to complete all of these different learning paths and skill up with your coworkers, and hopefully you guys will be able to answer each other's questions. And if you aren't able to do that, that's why we have all these cool sessions where you can ask us.
Yeah. And then lastly, if you guys are wondering, how to actually get started in Fabric, we do have a really cool free trial as well, which you can try. So feel free to go ahead and just play around with it, use it. Just try all the different capabilities in Fabric. And that's the reason why we have like a free trial period as well. You don't have to enter credit card information. You don't have to, worry about billing or costing for those first few days that you do end up using it. So feel free to take advantage of that and just kind of use it as much as you want to, play around with it. But that is definitely a great incentive for you guys to go ahead and just see what all the different capabilities are for Fabric, and then eventually upgrade to it if you want to.
Yeah, the free trial is really awesome. When we go through some of the items, you'll be able to see that there are preview tags on everything. So it's a great way to start playing around and getting used to Fabric and all the new capabilities that you might have heard of from other people, and play around without actually having to put down any money. So hopefully this gets you really excited about it if you haven't tried it already. And this will be a good way for you to upgrade and go ahead and try Fabric.
Yeah. So we have a few learning objectives. So we're going to kind of get started in terms of what the agenda kind of looks like. So the 4 basic objectives that we hope for you to gain out of this session are, the first is just kind of describe what pipelines are and what all the capabilities of them are. So we'll go through like the basics of what each part of a pipeline is. So hopefully at the end of the session, you'll be able to kind of understand what a pipeline and data factory actually does. And then we're going to use one of our really, really famous or popular features as part of the pipeline, which is the copy data activity. We'll go into more details about what that is, and then you guys will actually also play around with it. And Noelle will also show you a demo of how to get started in Fabric. And then the next thing is, of course, creating pipeline activities or pipelines just based on templates. We have a really cool template gallery, which we will also show. But we'll show you how you can utilize those template galleries to actually create pipelines as well. And then, of course, the last most important thing is, of course, running and monitoring those pipelines. So we want to make sure that once you do run a pipeline, you want to be able to see, what is actually happening behind the scenes. So we will go through all of these different objectives. And once again, feel free to ask questions. We have a few slides, and then Noelle will also be going into actually showing you live demos of how this is going, and feel free to follow along.
Yep. Excited to get started. Y'all.
Yeah.
It is Happy Speak Like a Fire Day.
Awesome. So as an introduction, pipelines or data pipelines in this scenario are basically a sequence of activities that orchestrate an overall process. And these different processes can be very different based on whatever you're wanting to achieve. But usually what happens in a pipeline is that you're extracting data from, a source or multiple different sources. And this doesn't have to be like a singular source, for example, as like just an Azure SQL DB. It could be like an Oracle database. You can be bringing in data from a Cosmos DB, Snowflake instance. But basically, you're extracting data from all these different sources, and you're loading it into a destination of your choosing, right? So in this case, you can bring that data from all of your different sources and bring it into like the Lakehouse, for example, in Fabric, or you can put it into like a database of your source, of your choosing. But along with that, that's not just the only thing that a pipeline does. In the process, right, we have that extraction, we have that loading, but in the middle, you can also transform as well. So for example, if you have a column or if you have like a data type that doesn't look right when you're landing it over, you can also do multiple different transformations along the way. So it's just kind of a way for you to kind of put different activities, and we'll actually show you what an activity is, but just put it into a sequence, extract the data, transform it, load it into a destination of your choosing as well. So that's the basic concept of what a pipeline is. And then along with pipelines, especially in Data Factory, we have the ability to kind of have those activities in the middle of it, right? So as you can see in this little diagram over here, we have all these, variety of different activities, right? For example, we have a delete data activity, and then we have a data flow activity, and we have a notebook activity. We also have at the top of this, like the ribbon, which you can see, we have a copy data activity. And all these different activities are basically, that encapsulate data transformation operations. And they have the ability to do different unique activities that basically execute the pipeline. So we do have two different types of activities. We have data transformation activities, and this is what I was mentioning over here, which is the copy data activity that basically extracts data from a source and loads into a destination. We have even more complex activities as well, such as the data flow activity, where you can actually use that Gen 2 data flow encapsulation and apply transformation to the data as it gets transferred from your source to your destination. Another activity that is also used, which is actually shown on this screen, is a notebook activity. So in a notebook activity, you can run a Spark notebook, you can run a Python notebook, which goes into a little bit more detail and more, especially if you're more of a coder or a developer, this is a great way for you to also transform that data as well. And then of course, with the delete activities as well. So if you have some data that you don't want to be loaded into like your destination, that is also a possibility which you can use the delete data activity. And then the other different type of activity is the control flow activity. So the control flow activities basically allow you to implement any loops, conditional branching. You can manage your variables or parameter values as well. And there's a variety, like a wide range of control flow activities as well, which you can implement in your pipelines to make sure that you are orchestrating your data ingestion and your transformation flows as well. So that's kind of what an activity is. Think of an activity as you're basically stitching together your pipeline with different tasks, you can say that as well. You can have, one activity, you can have multiple activities. It just really depends on what you're trying to do with your data.
Yep. And the great thing about Data Factory is that it's all in a visual canvas. So it's really easy to see what's connected to each other. And with Fabric, it's really easy to be able to see all the different pieces that you're adding to your pipeline. It's really easy to edit and modify as you go along, and also to test and to adjust if needed. And if you're really familiar with Azure Data Factory, a lot of this is going to look pretty similar. If you're not, don't worry about it. It's still really easy, very pretty to look at, very easy to just add things to it and just click around. And we'll walk through it and show you how simple it can be. But yeah, so that activities are a big part of data pipelines, because that's what your data pipeline is going to use to be able to do different things to your data.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just have one more slide, and then Noelle can show you a little thing about how it actually looks. So we kind of talked about activities. The next thing are parameters. If you guys are familiar with ADF, our product that is very popular, you know that pipelines can also be parameterized. So parameterization is basically that you are providing a specific value to be used each time a pipeline is run. So instead of hard coding that value in every single time you run it, you can use a parameter to basically ingest that value that you have defined. And so now you don't have to worry about, manually when you hit that run button, putting a parameter in or putting a value in. That parameter can already be set before you actually run the pipeline. So it just makes the entire pipeline process and the run activity just a little bit more easier for you. And especially when you're bringing in lots of data, you don't remember maybe the specific value that you want to actually put in. So in this case, parameters actually do a good job in helping you make sure that your pipelines are being run with the specific value that you have defined. And Noelle will also show you, some parameters as well, how to define them. And then the last concept are pipeline runs. So basically what a pipeline run is kind of, you know, in the name is that every single time once you have defined your activity or your pipeline, right, with your activities that you have, when you execute or run the pipeline, a data pipeline run is initiated, right? And then with that data pipeline run, you're able to monitor that activity, see what the progress is. But basically, every single time you click that run button and you have generated that pipeline, a run will be created and it is initiated. And then, you know, there's different phases and steps as also which come into the monitoring phase. It could be like a initiating process, it could be a running process, and it can also be a complete process as well. So there are different ways how you can monitor that, and then Noelle will also be showing that as well. But just like these are just the different concepts that are kind of associated with the pipeline, right? We first have the activities where you define your pipeline, and then you can put parameters in to make sure those values that you have put in are put into the pipeline. And then at the end, when you're done and you're ready to run it, a pipeline run is created for execution of that specific pipeline that you have defined. Yeah, and Noelle, would you want to show a quick, just, you know, demo or like a quick screen of how it actually looks before I go into the next concept?
Oh yeah, let's show you how you can get started with data pipeline. So what you see on the screen right now is the home canvas for designing your pipeline. So as you can see, there are a lot of different things that you can do right here, but we're just going to cover those core concepts. So at the top here, you can see a whole list of activities, or you can look through it from the main center of your screen. And if you take a look, we have all these different types of activities that you can use grouped in the specific actions that they can do. So if you wanted to move and transform your data, we recommend that you would use the copy, delete, or data flow or notebook activities. If you wanted to code with different types of scripts, we have these types of activities for you to do. As we were talking about the control flow activities, we have the if condition, the switch, we have different conditional loops for each until, and so on and so forth. And if you notice here, these two have preview tags. This is because these are new activities that you will not be able to see currently in Azure Data Factory. This is in Fabric only currently, but you can also send out notifications once your pipeline has run, or after a certain activity has been performed within your data pipeline. You can send out an email or Teams to whatever group needs to know what's been going on. So these are different activities, and basically what you do, you click and it shows up and you can just configure it. And if you wanted to add more, you just go ahead and you continue to link them up. You can also go ahead and delete them. So if you go here, I can change the different connections between them. So if I wanted this copy activity to continue once my lookup failed, I would change that. I can delete the connection between them, or I can even add new activities in between if I feel like I needed to add, say, a wait activity before I wanted to copy data. So lots of different ways that you can start to link up different tasks and to build up your pipeline. So those are different activities, and we'll start to get in a little bit more deeply with some of the more commonly used ones. And towards the end, we'll have an exercise where you'll actually be able to play around with those activities and configure those. As for parameters, those can be easily added into your pipeline. So for example, let's see, I can add a new parameter here. So if I wanted to do a table, I can set the default value, or I can just leave it blank. And if I leave it blank, when I run my pipeline, it'll prompt a screen that says, we need the table name. And so you can update the table name so that if you're looking up data, it doesn't have to be from the same table every single time. You can make sure that whatever you design is actually usable for lots of different types of sources and destinations, depending on what it is that you're doing. So it just makes it easy for you to have your pipeline be flexible and saves you a lot of time and work in designing pipelines when you could be doing the same thing and just changing out different table values or source and file names, whatever it is that you want to be doing. And then the last thing is pipeline run. So when a pipeline runs, that means that you're executing all the different activities in it. And what's really cool about it here is that we have a lot of different options for you to do this. I think we'll actually have time to get into this a little bit deeper, so this is just a quick preview for you. But as you can see, it gives you a lot of different information. So you have a green check button for when it's running well. You can even get a bunch of details within it. Here you can even see how much data was copied for data validation purposes. So there are lots of different details that you can get from your pipeline run to be able to give you options to modify or to adjust. So if you wanted to make your pipeline a little bit more optimized, there are lots of different ways that you can use this detail to do that. Or if your pipeline is failing, we'll be able to give you error messages so that you can go back through and fix it up. So those are just a few concepts. And as we continue on, we'll be able to see the different pieces in a lot more detail. So back to you, Shireen, to continue onwards.
Yeah, thanks, Noelle. So that was just a quick little demo of, what those concepts that we went over actually kind of look live. So now what we're going to go into is using the copy data activity. So if you guys are really familiar with the copy tool in ADF, it is a very similar concept. Basically, with the copy data activity, it is a way for you to kind of get started really quickly. So for example, if you aren't sure how to maybe use some of the activities, or if you're just wanting to quickly bring that data in to Fabric, or a destination of your choosing, then you can use the copy data tool as well. So it is one of our most common activities in a pipeline, just because how quick it is and how actually user-friendly it is as well. We'll actually show you how that actually looks in Fabric. So with the copy data activity and kind of when to use it, so what I was mentioning before, it is basically used for you to just quickly copy your data directly from a source and land it into a destination of your choosing. And within the copy tool, you don't have the actual ability to make transformations directly in the activity, but you can, of course, use those different activities or transformations after you have set up the copy data activity. And in this case, if you just want to bring your data in really quickly or bring that raw data in from, your bronze store, and then eventually make it into a silver or gold store as well, you can do that. But this is just a way for you to quickly get that data in, bring it into the canvas, which Noelle showed. And then if you wanted to put transformations in the activities or the pipeline, then you can totally do that. But it is a really quick way for you to just get started and get started quickly. And of course, if you want to learn more about it, definitely scan that QR code or just go to that link, because what you'll actually see as well that within a copy data tool, if you wanted to add transformations, you can add a data flow activity after you have brought that copy data activity into the canvas, and then do transformations after you brought it in. But the data flow activity is actually a really good way for you to learn more about how to transform your data. It just makes the entire process a little bit easier. So that is the copy data tool. I want to actually hand it back to Noelle because I want you to actually see how easy it is for you to use and how really cool the UI is as well, because you can clearly see all of the different data sources there is. So Noelle, back to you.
Cool. So the copy data is really awesome because a commonly used or a common use case for a lot of people is to migrate their data. And with the copy data activity, we actually walk you through it step by step so that it's really easily configurable for you when you are looking to do that. So there are a few ways that you can do this. When you create a new pipeline, you actually see front and center copy data. So that's the first way that you can do it. If for some reason you've already started building and you lose this, we actually give you a pop down here called the copy assistant that'll do the exact same thing for you, or you can manually configure it with add to canvas. But if you want to use a copy assistant, go ahead and click copy data. And as you can see on the side here, we actually walk you through step by step all the things that you need to do in order to copy your data. So we have a bunch of sample data in case you just want to go in and play around with this. But if you have a data source that you want to work with, we have so many different types of connectors in here. We actually even have grouped them so that you can use that to filter it down, or you can even use a search bar if you know exactly what you're looking for. So let's say I want to do something from my storage. So you can use blob storage, ADL Gen 2, et cetera, and it's easily found by using the search. But for this one, since I'm just going to walk through this real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and use some of the sample data. We give you the ability to even preview your data before you decide what you want to bring in. So I can go through and I can even see what it looks like and make sure it's exactly what I want before I move on to the next step. Then you can choose a data destination. Make this simple. I'll use my lake house, which I've already created in here. And then you can configure in whatever way you want. So if you want to create a new table, if you have an existing table that you wanted, if instead of a table you want it to be a file, all these are different things that you can do. And then once it's good, you just review what it looks like. So you have your source, you have your destination. And then if you wanted to run this right away, you just save and run, and it'll kick off a pipeline, and it'll start to transfer the data. But as you can see, it's really quick and simple. Within like a few minutes, you're able to migrate the data that you want from one place to another. So the copy data pool is super powerful. I'm really excited to have it front and center in Fabric. I think in a little bit, you'll be able to play around with it a little bit, but really excited to have this. Back to you, Shireen.
Awesome. Thanks, Noelle. So yeah, you were able to see how nice and easy the experience was. So on like the left-hand side, you're able to see those ribbons of like making sure those connections, look good. And, you can see the steps that are going in, which makes the process just a little bit easier for you to get started. So we'll go into now using pipeline templates. So as I was kind of mentioning at the beginning of the session, templates are a really, really good way for you to kind of get started. So for example, if you're unfamiliar with like how to actually create a pipeline or create specific activities for you to get a job done, templates are a way for you to actually basically go in and see how a specific pipeline is arranged, based on what you want to do. So with templates, you can define pipelines from any combination of activities you want to choose. So it's just a template for you to get started. But if you wanted to add specific activities, you can as well. But then along with that, you can create different, or you can use the same exact activities that are in the template. But it basically allows you to create or just get started as quickly as possible to create that data ingestion and transformation processes that kind of meet whatever you want to do with the pipeline. And we have a variety of different pipelines, that it just depends specifically on what you want to do. We have pipelines specifically created, to copy data from, like a SQL DB and bring it into like a lake house. You can also, delete files as well. For example, if you have a lot of files in like your ADLS Gen 2 account, or like a specific file source of your choosing, you can use a template to basically delete data from like over 30 days, maybe move it into like an archive folder, whatever you want to do. So we have a variety of different templates that help you get started, and it's a gallery as well. So if you're familiar with ADF, we had a template gallery as well, which basically helped you get started. And we're bringing the similar concept as well into Fabric, and specifically for data pipelines. So Noelle, I'm going to transition it back to you to show you how that actually looks. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with Data Factory and Fabric, we want to make sure that everything is easy, everything is less work for you, basically. And that's no exception with the template gallery. As Shireen said, we do have this as well in ADF. And we're bringing it to Fabric as well. Granted, it is a little bit new, so if there are specific scenarios that you are looking for or templates to help you get started for certain scenarios, please drop those in the chat. We'll take note of them and start to add those in as well. So if you go ahead back to your canvas, the third block is choose a task to start. And so this is how you're going to be able to enter into the template gallery. And as you can see, it brings you a whole bunch of templates. And a lot of these are scenario based. So, if I want to copy data quickly from my ADL Gen 2 storage to my lakehouse, I might use this template instead. If I want to delete files older than 30 days in one of my storage stores, then I would choose this scenario. So lots of different things that you can do here. As I said, if you're familiar with ADF, there are definitely a lot more templates in there. But if there are things that you'd like to see brought into the Fabric templates, please let us know. We would love to hear your feedback as we continue to build this out. But super easy to use. You choose whatever you want to use as your template to get started really quickly. And all you have to do is select your connections. So I want to delete files from this one. For now, I'll just use whatever connections I have here, use this template, and boom, it creates it for you. So all you have to go through is double check and make sure that all the settings are correct. These ones are parameterized, as you can see by the parameters up here. So when you run this, you'll be able to do it for multiple different files or for different folders. So you can specify what it is that you want to delete files from. So super simple, really great way to get started really quickly. And I see that we have a bunch of questions. So one of the questions was, do pipelines have the same functionality as standalone ADF pipelines? And can you import ADF pipelines into Fabric? We do have a lot of similar functionality as ADF. As I said earlier, there are definitely new activities and some new functionality that are only available in Fabric. So, for example, you will not be able to find the Outlook activity or the Teams activity to send notifications in ADF. We are working on a way to bring ADF pipelines into Fabric. That's currently not available, but it will be coming. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. I see when scheduling a data pipeline to run at set times, does copy activity duplicate data in your destination? So this is actually something that you can do when you are configuring your copy activity. So for example, with Lakehouse, you can actually select different options. So if I wanted to append data to a table, I can click a box and it'll do that. Or I can rewrite. So there are different options for you to do that. Cool. I am sending it back to you, Shireen.
Awesome. Thanks, Noelle. So the last concept before we kind of go into like the exercise that we have for you guys is, of course, running and monitoring those pipelines. We know that is a very important thing, especially when you have created your pipeline and you're starting to run it, and then you want to make sure that it's actually properly running, and if it fails, you want to be able to monitor it, right? So the first thing, especially, we have actually a couple of things which you can do. So the first thing is, of course, validating your pipeline. So what a validation is that basically it makes sure that everything is configured properly, right? That you have your data source properly configured and your data destination properly configured. And also those mappings between the activities are also configured properly as well. So, that arrow which you see in the middle of the screen, right? You want to make sure that is properly configured to the next activity. And so we just want to make sure that everything in your pipeline is properly validated so that once you actually hit run, there aren't issues with any configuration that you're going through. And then we also have the ability to run the pipeline. So, right, for example, you have created your pipeline, you've put your activities in, and now you want to actually run it and see if it actually works. So that's when you actually hit run, and then you can monitor it as well. And then the last thing also is scheduling, which Noelle just kind of went over. When you schedule a pipeline, for example, you don't want it to just run, once. Maybe you want to run every hour, maybe a couple times a day or every other day, right? So you can actually schedule that pipeline as well to have it run whatever schedule you want it to run. So we have different options at the top of the ribbon. And then along with that, just going a little bit more into kind of the run history. So actually in the tab before, there's another tab called View Run History, right? So we have the 3 different options for you to run, validate, also schedule your pipeline runs. And then we also have the ability to actually view your run history. So for example, you have maybe run this pipeline that you've created like 4 or 5 times, right? And maybe like 3 of those pipeline runs have failed. Maybe 1 like didn't execute properly, and maybe 1 completed properly, right? So you can actually go back and see how your runs did. You can view the history of the run. You can figure out what error there was as well. And it just makes it a little bit easier for you to actually debug and see what went wrong, and then making sure that you can, in your next activity or next pipeline run, you can actually fix those mistakes as well. And along with that, you can actually see at the bottom your pipeline activity runs, which Noelle had showed. You can see like a success message or a failed message. And then we also have like a specific page in your workspace where you can also view all of your runs and history as well. We have a specific monitor actual page in your workspace, which you can see too. So we just want to make this process easy for you because we understand that, especially when you hit that run button and if you don't see anything, some people might actually panic, so you want to make sure that you can actually see everything properly along with the history of your runs as well. So I'm going to pass it back over to Noelle to actually see the functionality both in the pipeline canvas and also in the workspace of how monitoring your pipeline runs actually look. Back to you, Noelle.
Cool. So I think you can see my screen now. Yes. Okay, cool. So here I kind of have the same pipeline that I had up before that has run already. I'm going to show you the run history first, and then I'll go back through some of the other things that Shireen was talking about. So there are 2 ways that you can go ahead and look at your run history. You can click right here. You can see all the times that it had been run. So when it was started, who had run it. So if you are working on a team where different people are working in the same pipeline, you'll be able to see who was running it. You'll see the status of it as well. You can also navigate to your workspace and see it from there, but that's the quickest way if you would like to. Then for validating your pipelines, this is a really great way to make sure that your pipeline doesn't have any mistakes before you run it. So for example, if I were to, let's add a new activity here, let's say delete data, and I'm ready to run this, I would click validate, and it'll tell me what is missing. So if I click on here, it'll actually take me to the actual spot within the activity that I need to fix before I'm able to move on. So I'm just going to select one of my connections here, and it'll tell you when it's fixed. So look, it's fixed. Now I only have one more thing to fix before everything is validated. Now all of this is fixed. So when I validate this again, looks like there are no mistakes. I can go ahead and run this. I'm not going to run it because I did not actually configure this well, but you can see what I mean. And make sure that you are able to design your pipeline and make sure that there are going to be as little mistakes as possible before you start running. Obviously, there might be some configuration issues, and you'll get some notifications on that, error messages that'll help you fix that. But for the most part, this makes sure that your pipeline is good to run before you actually run it. And if you actually wanted to run it, you can click it to run now. So I click run, it'll save, it'll run, it'll go right away. So this is how you can trigger your pipeline manually. If you would like to schedule it, we do have the scheduler or the schedule assistant. very pretty. And all you have to do is click on, and then you just fill out the rest of it to be able to set it at a different frequency that you would like this pipeline to run automatically. So you can do it by the minute, hourly, daily, weekly, whatever works best for you, start date, end date, and you can even choose a different time zone. So if I do hourly, every 3 hours, starting, let's say today at 2 p.m., it'll end, let's say, next year. Easy. 2 p.m. My time zone. I apply and X out. And at the top of your screen, I think you would be able to see right here. So it'll tell you when your next refresh is. And if you want it to go ahead and run, you can click this button, but otherwise it'll start to run every 3 hours. So pretty cool. Awesome. Back to you, Shireen.
Awesome. Thanks, Noelle. So yeah, you were able to quickly see how easy it is for you to like schedule your runs, monitor your runs, for example, as well. We just want to make sure that the process is as easy for you, and then also bringing in the same functionality that we did in ADF as well. So now we have the rest of the time to actually have you guys go in and actually try this. So we have the exercise for you to actually run through. Maybe we can paste that link back in the chat just in case if people lost it. But basically what we're gonna do now is just wait for you to just go through the modules. We have a really cool learning module where you're actually going to see how to create a pipeline, how to actually start, bring in activities, for example, as well, monitor, run, all the things that you have just seen in the presentation, but we want to have you guys also play around with it too. So what we'll do now is, Noelle, if you want to quickly show how that actually looks, I think then folks can also just kind of walk through it as well with you, just to see how you can get started. But we want to make sure that you guys have the ability to actually get started and actually like play around with it as well and get you guys hands-on.
Yeah, I can walk through some of the different steps that you'll see in the actual exercise. And after the show, of course, you can go through them yourselves, or if you're following along, totally go ahead and do it. And feel free to ask more questions in the chat. I think there are a few more questions. Unit testing, great question. We get asked this a lot. I think what would be best if we do a tutorial down the line, so we can come up with a blog and a video for that to kind of walk you through this. Then let's see. Are you able to use different types of schedules? We are working on having a few, adding those in. So what you see right now is what you can currently do within Fabric, but we are working on event-based and tumbling window. Cool. And awesome. I think there was, can you set up automated notification for pipeline failures? Yeah, that's a great question. We do have notification activities now within your data pipeline. So I'd mentioned the Outlook and the Teams activities. So you can just add them into your pipeline. And so once something runs and it fails, it can kick off that activity and send you a notification saying that something failed. So hopefully that will help you stay up to date. Okay, let me go ahead and walk through some of the steps within this exercise. So a lot of it is just creating, a lot of it will get you started by creating different items. So the first thing is that you'll probably need to create a workspace. So when you land in Fabric, this is kind of the page that you get. You see it's very beautiful. You see all the different workloads within here. You can click on Data Factory and it'll bring you right here. What you want to do is to workspaces, you create a new workspace. You can name it. So let's call this Learn Live. And when you, before you apply any changes in the advanced section, you want to make sure that you're choosing a license that allows you to use Fabric. So right now it's pre-configured as trial. So you want to set that, make sure it's set at trial and apply so that you can start using some of these items that you see. I'm actually going to go back to my workspace because that's where I had all my items open. The next step is to create a new lakehouse. So when you click new, you have all these different resources that you can create. So if you wanted to, you can also switch between different workloads by clicking on the icon in the bottom left corner, or you can just create new from here. So if you wanted to create a new lakehouse, all you have to do is click lakehouse, set a name. So example, let's creates a beautiful lakehouse for you. I think one of the steps is to create a new subfolder. 3 dots on the side gives you a lot of different options. New subfolder, new data. Done. Easy peasy. Now we want to load some data in. So this is where I'm going to bring you back to a pipeline. So I think I actually created the one that we wanted to do called ingest sales data. Notice how easy it is to multitask or to navigate back and forth. If I wanted to go back to my workspace, I don't have to click the back button. I don't have to have multiple tabs open. I can just go ahead and click my workspace and I'm brought back here. So as I was showing you before, creating new resources is pretty easy. Wanted to create a new data pipeline, you would click data pipeline, and you would also set a name and click create, and it would land you right here. So in this one, I think that the instructions are pretty straightforward, but it'll walk you through the copy data wizard, which is really awesome. So I can actually show you how this is. Of course, you can go through and follow along, or you can do this on your own time. But like I showed you earlier, we will start with a copy assistant. So you click copy data, and it opens up this beautiful assistant. So instead of using sample data this time, we're actually going to be grabbing data from a source. So you're going to grab it from an HTTP source. So you'll search it up, or you can sift through all the connectors that we have. And then you're going to create a new connection. And I think they give you a URL in there. I actually already have this connection set up, but this is what it would look like if you didn't have it already. You have 2 different types of authentication kinds. I think it asks you to use basic, but you can use either. So I'm actually going to select it because I already created it earlier. What's really awesome is once you create a connection is that you are able to test it. So if something's wrong with the connection that you've made, you'll be able to see it right here before you move forward. And if anything is wrong, you click edit, and you'll be able to edit pretty quickly. Oops, sorry, I'm using a different browser, so it makes me re-sign in every single time. But you wouldn't have to do that if you aren't using. I think I'm using something funny. But anyway, once this is all set up, you connect to your data source. I think you can leave all of these settings alone. And I think you can leave all of these settings alone too. But we do have something cool and new. It's called detect text format. So you can, if you didn't want to manually set all of this, you can actually let it do it for you. So you click detect text format and it will go ahead and update all of these options with what it detects from the data source. And afterwards, you can click preview data and you should be able to see what your data looks like. So we're working with some sales data. You see that the first row is the header. You can even look at the schema in here. And if this all looks good, then you can move on to the next. So for example, if first row wasn't header, I preview my data and this looks wrong. So I've got prop 0, prop 1, and then I can go back and fix it. Oops. Boom. Cool. Next, we want to choose our data destination. So that's why we made the lakehouse. You can search up lakehouse. And we're just going to use the existing lakehouse that we created. If you didn't create one earlier, you can create it now. It just wouldn't have that subfolder you have in there. But you can always go back through and fix it later, I guess. Let's use my Learn Live Lakehouse. And we'll click Next. This time we're not doing tables, we're going to do files. So what I can do is browse, and I actually can choose that folder that I created earlier. I click OK. I set a file name, sales.csv. I don't think that we have to set any copy behavior, but I think if you wanted to, you could. So these are the different options that you have in the future. For future reference, these are things that you can use. Click Next. This all looks good to me. Leave it as is. Now we can review. Start data transfer immediately. Boom, save and run. Now it's running the pipeline. I'll give it a little time to load. Cool. So while we're doing that, the next step was to create a notebook. Again, you can navigate back to your workspace, create a new notebook. Here, rename it. I actually did create the notebook, and I can find it here with my handy dandy sort. Load sales. So the code in the exercise is already there, easily for you to copy and paste into the cells. If you haven't worked with this before, you can go ahead and actually, maybe I'll create a new notebook. Okay, going back. I'll walk through this from the beginning. Cool. You can rename it from here. So let's do Learn Live. Oops. Oops. Ignore my typing skills, everyone. But here you can see each of the cell editors is how you would be coding. When you hover at the bottom of a new cell or of an existing cell, you'll have the option to do a new markdown cell. So if you needed to type just regular words, or if you wanted to code, you add a code cell. And in the exercise, you just click copy and you can paste it in. This first one, table name equals sales, is actually going to be a parameter. So what you want to do is on this cell, you have the option here, more commands, and you actually want to toggle parameter cell. And you know it's a parameter because at the bottom, it'll tell you parameters. So make sure that you do this as you go through the exercise, otherwise it might not work properly. Then you want to add another cell, a code cell, so that you can add the rest of the code in. Boom. So this is for people who like to code and transform, not just visually. So this is definitely an option for you to do that. So once it looks like this, you should be able to, let me double check my lake house real quick. My Learn Live lake house. Let me refresh this. I want to make sure that I have data in here. Yep, I have a sales.csv table, or I mean not table, a file. I can go back to my notebook, and I can go ahead and run this. Actually, I think I need to do something else first. Settings. Learn Live. Okay, cool. Actually, I have to name this load sales. So actually, I'm going to call this load sales 2. Oops, sorry. Or I'll just add sales. There we go. Awesome. And then over here, make sure to add your lake house. So we'll choose an existing one that we already have. So that was the Learn Live lake house. Super awesome. You can see, you should have my file in there. Oh, here it is, sales.csv. And once that's connected, I added into the files. I think you can run this now, and it will create a table for you. So I'll let this run. And then I'll go back to my pipeline. And I have my copy activity in here. And now we're just going to modify the pipeline. So we have a copy activity. What we want to do is add a new delete data activity. So in the activities tab, you can go ahead quickly and use drop down, delete data, add that, easily connect the two, drag and drop. We actually have to go through and update some of the delete activity. And as you can see here in your activities, see those little red buttons at the top there? Those let you know that you need to fill out information. Otherwise, you won't be able to validate your pipeline. So those are just little reminders that things aren't configured properly. So this wants us to name this delete old files. Our source, we are actually going to use our lakehouse. So instead of external, we're going to use workspace because our lakehouse exists in our workspace. We'll choose our Learn Live lakehouse. And then we'll use a wildcard file path. And we'll use this as, you can either type it or you can browse. We'll use new data. We'll click OK. And then we'll grab everything that ends in CSV, which is why there's a wild path star. And then if we want to do logging, let's unselect logging. If you wanted to log, you can totally do that. You would just have to set an account for that where you would store those logging information. We don't need to do that right now. Cool. So then we'll delete old data. We'll copy before we copy this data back in, and then we'll add a notebook activity to transform that data. So this one's easy because we already know we want it to be connected to our copy data. So we'll press this one right here to bring up a list of activities. Search for notebook, settings, use the drop down, and we're actually going to use the Learn Live load sales. If you wanted to open it up and take a look, you do that. Or you can use the multitask and go back and forth. And we need to add a base parameter. So add a new base parameter by clicking new. Then we're going to do table name. Table underscore name. It's going to be string type. And we're going to set this value to new sales. So this is how we're going to pass information into our notebook. Then now, this looks like we've modified our pipeline correctly according to the exercise. In the Run tab, validate it. I think you actually also have the option to validate in the Home tab. So multiple ways for you to make sure that your pipeline looks good. And then once that's okay, you click the Run button. Save and run, and voila, that is it. And the rest of it is just to go back and forth and double check that everything looks okay within your lakehouse, within your notebook, and et cetera, et cetera. So that is basically it for the exercise. And as you can see, pretty straightforward in the way that we were able to copy data into our lakehouse. We're able to connect our data pipeline to lots of different types of resources that you find in Fabric. So not only the lakehouse, but using notebooks to transform data in our lakehouse. Multitasking is so easy by toggling back and forth between the workspace, between our different individual artifacts. Modifying a pipeline is so easy as well. You just have to go back through, add your new activities, delete your activities, and save, validate and save. So there's a lot that you can really do here. Cool. And that is basically it for the exercise. So I can send it back to Shireen and we can go ahead and do some of the knowledge checks.
Yes, sounds good. So we have a few questions for you guys. Yeah, if you guys want, you can vote on that AKMS link. Yep, /polls. So I'll leave like the question up for maybe like a minute, and then we can go through the answer. So what is a data pipeline? So let's see. There are three options: a special folder and one lake storage where data can be exported from a lakehouse, a sequence of activities to orchestrate a data ingestion or transformation process, or a saved Power Query. So I'm going to let you guys vote. And I think I can actually see the results. I'm pulling it up on my side. But yeah, feel free to answer. Give it like 15 more seconds. Okay. I think a lot of you guys got it right. I'm seeing the results. Yeah, I think all of you guys got it right. It is B, a sequence of activities to orchestrate data ingestion or transformation process. Cool. Next question. You want to use a pipeline to copy data to a folder with a specified name for each run. What should you do? A, create multiple pipelines, one for each folder name. B, use a data flow, Gen 2. And then C, add a parameter to the pipeline and use it to specify the folder name for each run. So feel free to vote again. Give it a couple. Give it like...
Ooh, I see them trickling in.
I know. This is actually kind of fun. Yeah, I feel like you guys got it. Cool. I think we got...
I'm glad to see that everyone's been paying attention.
Yeah. Cool. Yes. C. Add a parameter to the pipeline. Yeah, you don't want to create multiple pipelines. It's going to be a lot of work. Cool. Next question. You have previously run a pipeline containing multiple activities. What's the best way to check how long each individual activity took to complete? A, rerun the pipeline and observe the output, timing each activity. B, view the run details in the run history. C, view the refreshed value for your Lakehouse's default data set. So yeah, what is the best way to check how long each activity ran for? Okay, get another few seconds.
Everyone's so smart.
I know, yeah, very smart. Maybe the questions are too easy. You should work on getting the questions harder. Okay, cool. Yeah, that looks like most of you guys have answered. So yeah, B. Of course, we have that run history tab, which makes it so easy for you to monitor your pipelines. Do not rerun the pipeline. That's just too much work. I think we have... No, we're done. Okay, those are all the questions. Cool. So just as a quick summary of what we've covered today, the same as the objectives at the beginning, right? We described the different pipeline capabilities. We went over the key concepts of activities, parameters, pipeline runs, when we actually showed you how those kind of look. And then we also went into a little bit more detail about the copy data activity as well in a pipeline, which is one of our most common used activities, which was brought from our copy data tool in ADF, and we wanted to make sure that same experience is also in data pipelines in Fabric. And then we also showed you how you can create pipelines based on templates through our template gallery, and you can also customize those templates as well, depending on whatever you want to do with them, or whatever your business requires. And the last thing, of course, is running and monitoring those pipelines as well. We want to make sure that you can validate those pipelines, run it, schedule them, and then, of course, be able to monitor all the different activities underneath your pipeline, as well as like the overall status of your pipelines as well. So this was kind of the session that we wanted to kind of bring light to, and I hope you guys really enjoy the interactiveness of switching back between concepts and actually seeing it live from Noelle's screen. And yeah, in terms of resources, feel free to look at that link that is being pasted by Anna and Amy in the chat. And feel free to, utilize those modules, and feel free to actually, ask us in discussions as well, to make sure that, you guys are constantly engaged and also constantly learning as well.
Yeah, and we love hearing feedback from all of you. So if you have any additional questions, or if there are things that you'd like to see, you have our LinkedIns. Feel free to drop us a message. Feel free to connect. Please drop in any other feedback in the comments. We will definitely go through and read them later on. And like we had said earlier in the session, there are a lot of really great Learn Live events coming up as well next week, being the Data Flows Gen 2 session, also hosted by people on our team. A great way for you to learn more about the ways that you can use Power Query within Fabric Data Factory. So definitely tune in for that. Should be a really great session, a great way to get to know Data Flows Gen 2. And I guess we do have a little bit of time left, so we can go through a few of the questions that we haven't gotten to yet. Integration to Git for pipelines for versioning is the same as in Power BI. Good question. I don't know if it's necessarily the same as Power BI, but we are working on bringing in a version of CI/CD for data pipelines, for Data Factory and Fabric. So that is something that is going to be out, coming out soon, we hope. And then, is there a way to group pipelines that are related in a logical folder structure? Currently, no. Sorry. But we have heard this from a lot of different people, so it is something that is on our radar. As you can see, or if you go back and look at the recording, the way that I was using the filter, you can actually filter the different artifacts in alphabetical order, if that is somewhat helpful. Same with the names of the resources. If you are following a specific type of naming convention, it might save you time doing it that way. Any other questions that we haven't got to, Shireen?
I think those are it. Oh, any guidelines or best practices for setting up an enterprise lakehouse for large organization, naming conventions, testing, deployment, versioning. We have documentation, but in terms of best practices, I don't think we have anything in our docs, but I think that's a good feedback, which we can take back to the team.
Yeah,
I know that there are, of course, best practices in terms of, bringing in data, naming, and all that kind of stuff. So we can definitely take it back to the team to make sure that the docs actually have some of those best practices laid out for you. So yeah, thanks for that feedback.
Yeah, that's great. We do have a lot of, actually, if you aren't familiar with it yet, but with Fabric, we do have a new community site where you can also continue to post questions or give feedback if there are things that you would like to see. We do post blogs as well. So some of those blogs kind of walk you through different scenarios or different updates on the new things that we're bringing to Fabric all up. So definitely keep an eye out for those, but we can definitely work on bringing out some docs or blogs that have better guidelines for best practices. Cool. Well,
yeah, I think those are it. But oh yeah, that was the next session, which Noelle was talking about. But yeah, feel free to come for that. Yep, we have an ingest data with data flow session next week, so please tune in for that. Some of our colleagues will be presenting for that session. And then lastly, I think that Cloud Skill Challenge, feel free to also, go to this link and participate in this as well. It's a really good way for you to just learn more about Fabric. And along with that, get your friends to also do it too. And I think, yeah, once again, try Fabric for free.
Upgrade to Fabric.
Exactly. Definitely upgrade or definitely try it out. We definitely don't want you to miss out on this great free trial. So feel free to do that. But I think that is the last slide. So yeah, with that, thank you all so much for joining. Noelle and I had a great time presenting and showcasing more about what data pipelines and Fabric look like. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions in the community site, discussions as well. And feel free to connect with us offline as well.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. We hope you learned a little bit more about data pipelines. Please complete the rest of the learning paths. Everyone worked really hard on them. Definitely a great way to get more familiar with all of the different cool things that you can do within Microsoft Fabric. So thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you again, and keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.